my daughter got called into the principal's office.
Did she have to fix a printer again?
Yes. And she's like, seriously, why don't these people read the instructions? I mean, is it that hard to read the damn instructions? And I sympathize because I tell people all the time what they have to do to fix their businesses, and then they don't do it. And then they come back and they say, well, why is my business broken? I told you, right? Like,
You actually wrote them a 70-page document.
It's true. I laid it out. Like 70. I'm like, this is it. Just follow this. Like step 1, step 2, step 3. I do think there is a thing. Like we human beings just have a thing where it's just hard for us to actually take action, to do things, even if it's in our best interest to do them. Sometimes it's easier to just call in a high schooler and say, come fix my printer. But one of the things that comes up a lot, Joe, is offers. I think that like there's even confusion about what an offer is. And so we're going to talk about offers, and we're going to talk about how to create an offer. We're going to talk about what an offer is, and we're going to talk about different offers at different times. So there are different offers that you make in the process of selling and marketing, and we're going to talk about those offers today and give you some ways to think about that so that you can better structure your sales and marketing. So I want to start where we usually start with this sort of thing, and I want to ask you, Joe, you're married, right?
I am. 15 years this month.
So 15 years of marriage. And when you got married, like did you propose at all?
I did propose.
And
it's a big deal. Whatever. I did a big whole thing.
Oh, you did one of those.
Yeah, I did one of those. And it was funny because it didn't work. So it was funny.
But the point of that is, I seriously doubt that you proposed on the first date.
Oh, no.
I mean, it took my wife and I, we met 12 years before we got married. And there were 8 years in the middle where we didn't talk. But we got like 12 years before we got married. You know, we talk about marketing and sales and how it relates to relationships. One of the things that I like to say is that marketing and sales is not like relationships. It is dating, right?
Yeah.
And so when you think of that, and you think of the process of dating, you typically don't start off with asking someone to get married. You typically go through a process of having a couple of dates. And usually by the time you get to, you know, what we're going to call your core offer, the marriage proposal, you're pretty sure about what the answer is, right? That's the way your sales and marketing should be. And so there are different offers that you make at different times in order to honor this sequence. I want to talk first about what that sequence looks like. And we've talked about this in other places, but I'm going to go over it here. And it really starts with unhappy people, because we're always
unhappy.
They're so unhappy, right?
So sad. Like the little girl in the middle is like totally.
And we've got to start with unhappy people. If they're not unhappy, they're not going to buy anything. And then they have to become aware of you. They have to know that you exist, because they can't buy anything if they don't know you exist. And then there's this process of building trust through engagement, and they have a conversation with you. At some point, they subscribe, and by subscribe, we mean an exchange of information, whether that's in person or whether that's digital. And all of this, by the way, is all marketing, whether it's digital or not digital or whatever. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
And then there's this conversion, right, where they sort of buy their first thing from you. They get excited about working with you, and then you can ascend and upsell and take them through that process. And then later you can look at them in terms of testimonials and referrals and all of that kind of stuff, right?
And they're all happy now. And
now at the end, they are happy because you have transformed them from unhappy to happy. But what we really want to talk about are offers. And there's sort of 4 places here where you're going to make an offer, right? There are kind of 4 different offers that you make in this sales journey. And I'm going to talk about exactly what those offers are in just a second. But the point of making these offers is that you kind of want to ratchet up the engagement. You want them to be more bought into what you're delivering, and you want to deliver a bit more. And you want to sort of thread the needle between, I just met you and I want to talk about the names of our kids, right? Like this is like the marriage proposal on the conversation to asking them out, right? So that's kind of the wrong way to go, but you also don't want to fall into the friend zone of,
Yeah.
I'm never going to make a sale. And it's pretty easy to fall into the friend zone of just giving people content and stuff and never making a sale. So you've got to give them offers so that they can take action and move towards that eventual sale, right? Or marriage. I mean, it works for both, right? Either way, right? So if you think about it, what you're really doing is you're creating sort of a value ladder, right? When you first meet somebody, what's the first thing that you do, Joe? When you first met your wife, the day you met her, what was the first thing you do to continue the conversation?
Well, you say hello, you shake hands.
Yeah, but then you're going to leave. So now you're leaving, and what do you have to do?
You got to exchange information.
Contact information, right?
Yeah.
And that's the first offer in marketing as well. Is it's like something for contact information, and usually in relationships and in marketing, there's not a lot of cost associated with that. You're giving something away. In marketing, you want it to have some value, to be useful to them. And in exchange, they give you the contact information, right? And there's an expectation with this first one that you're going to follow up. That's kind of how you know that you've met that subscription criteria, is that you've given something away with the expectation that there's going to be follow-up.
Yeah. I mean, they're giving you their contact information.
So you must want to stay in contact. So then you give them a call and you ask them out, right? We call this an entry point offer. It's that first offer. A lot of people get confused with what this is. I'm going to give some examples of what the entry point offer is. The idea here is that they are committing something to you now. So the first one, what they gave you was contact information in exchange for some bit of information. In the second one, you are doing something for them. You're providing some service or you're doing something, and they are now providing in exchange something else. So they're either paying you money or they're dedicating time or they're doing both.
Yeah.
But this is typically like a date, right? So I don't know about your marriage, but we do spend a lot of time together, right? We live in the same house and have kids and whatnot. And that's a lot more time than we spent on the first date. So the first date, with a cup of coffee or whatever. But that's what we're talking about here, right? It's that first date. And then you move on to the core offer. And this is the thing that you are going to sell them, the real thing, like the core of what you do. And here they're investing time, they're investing money, they're investing trust. Like there's a big deal involved. This is when they become your client, buying the core thing that you offer. And the mistake is when you offer the core at the very bottom of the value ladder, then nobody buys, right? It's really hard because there's no trust and you're asking for a lot of money and a lot of time and you haven't built that reputation yet. And then there is the upsell offer. And here it's just more commitment, more time, more money, more trust. But this is the easiest offer because generally people already trust you. So it's easy and you already know them. So it's easier to make that second offer and for them to continue on buying with you because they know that you're going to deliver. So these are the kind of the 4 offers that you are going to make throughout. And you can take those core offers and we think of them as a value ladder because in each one there's a bit more value that you're delivering and there's a bit more commitment from them. And then we move on to thinking about that in terms of the journey, right?
Yeah.
And you can think about it like this. So that giveaway is right at the beginning, and that's how we get them to subscribe. From subscription, we want them to get to them to a conversion place, so we make them an offer, right? To get the entry point offer, right? And then they get excited, and that's where we offer them the core thing that we sell. And then once they're our customer, then we can upsell them, right? So 4 places where we make offers. Does that make sense?
No, no, no. But it's really great, because if you don't understand this, then what happens all the time is that you end up in the bar going, "Will you marry me? Will 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 you?"
Yeah.
And that never works, right?
Right.
Or it does 1 out of every 100 times, and then you say to yourself, "See, I have to ask 100 people. I just have to keep asking 100 people." But that's not the way to do it, right? Is to get the people that actually you want to have the people that actually want to get married.
Well, and what's interesting is you want to marry the people that you want to marry, because at the end of the day, if you're asking everybody in the bar to get married, maybe somebody says yes, but is that the person you actually want to spend your life with? And it's the
Yeah.
same thing with your customers. Like, you want to work with people that you want to work with, that you enjoy working
Yes.
with, that are
Yeah.
your favorite people to work with. And you can't do that if you're just randomly asking people to get married, so that idea of the value ladder, and then also the idea of making sure that you're making the offers so that you are making progress through the journey.
Yeah. Yes.
So one of the places, as you know, that people get stuck is around that entry point offer and what an entry point offer is. So I want to give a couple of examples here, and I've got some examples that are not MSP examples, because I think it's good to go to other industries and see how it works, because you can get some transparency there. But one of the ways to think about your entry point offer is that you're splintering off what you have. So if you have your core offer, you take one little piece of a core offer, and that becomes your entry point offer. So if you're selling candle making equipment, all the stuff that you need for candles, one low cost way to get started is with wicks, right? Because anybody who's doing candles are going to need wicks. You can sell like lots of wicks for $1. If you're selling guitars, then you could sell lots of guitar picks for $1, right? Whatever it is. The idea is that it's a piece of your core offering. Like, they need wicks, they need guitar picks, but it's only a piece of the core offering, and you're selling it at a low price. So the commitment is low, but the value tends to be pretty high. Another good example of that is if you offer a la carte services. This used to be a big deal. We'll come and steam clean your thing for $20, and then they end up staying and steam cleaning everything for a few $100s, because
because now you got a sofa and a chair that's clean. Then the other 2 chairs look
or
like
not.
crap. And
Yeah.
you're like, wait a minute, you can't leave yet. I need
You got to do this one, and you got to do that one.
That's $200.
And then all the upholstery is clean. All the upholstery is clean, and you're like, well, can you paint too? Because that's what happens, right? So it takes you in there. And Fiverr is another good example of that, where you might pay $5 for one little thing, but that's a sample. That's a first pass. And then you end up spending more on more detailed things. But the entry point is just something to get you going down the process and get you in the habit of paying for stuff and buying stuff, and for the person who's selling to demonstrate value.
100%.
And some ideas from our clients and things that we've seen is things like free HIPAA compliance training. You go in and you do a compliance training with people. You could get free security documents, or some sort of free step towards cybersecurity or compliance, or something where they fill stuff in and they get a document. How to implement MFA. So this could be something on how to implement MFA, another training. Fix something. I kind of like this. This is an example I've heard where you go in and the Wi-Fi isn't working, or like the computer's not working, and they're like, oh, we don't know, like this computer hasn't been working forever. And then you go take a look at it, and the network cable is disconnected. So you plug in the network cable, or you do what my daughter does, and you read the instructions, and then you do the thing that the instructions say to do, and they're like, you just blew my mind. You do amazing work, right? And that's the idea of that entry point offer. Any other thoughts on that, Joe? Any other entry point offers that you can come up with?
The other entry point offer that you could do is you could do some kind of demo. So you could do a demo of the platform that you use to manage their stuff. Like if you do asset management for your particular avatar, you could show your asset management platform. If you do compliance, you could show your compliance platform and show them how they would get their reports and how they get to meet their compliance needs using that. You could sponsor stuff, right? You could sponsor a training. So let's say you work with accountants, you could sponsor a CPE training and bring in a famous trainer. That's a great way for them to come in, where you get to talk to them and then you talk about your platform during that training. So there's different ways. You want to be able to showcase what you do.
So if you're paying for somebody else to deliver, they're going to look good because they're delivering something. You want to be sure that you're delivering, that you remember the value ladder, right? So this has to add value to them. It's something that you do to establish trust and something that's highly valuable, right?
Yeah.
So when you bring that sponsored person in, you have to be sure that you own that situation, that you own the results, right?
And it has to align with what you do. You have to showcase what you do. That entry point offer has to showcase your services.
It has to be a part of it, right? You're not showing people what you do. You're delivering a part of what you do. You are actually doing it. Like that's where it's most powerful, is when you're actually doing that thing. Like with the wicks and the candles, you're not just showing them, oh, look, we have wicks, right? You're actually delivering the wicks to their house so they see how quickly you deliver. They see how valuable it is. They see what great quality they are. So when you are doing a demo or something, you want to be sure that you are demoing it on something so that they get a result from it. They should get some result from it. And then the next offer, that from this, they should get excited about your core offer and doing work with you. That's the idea of the entry point offer. Your core offer is that core thing that you're trying to sell. Now the question always comes up, what is an offer? How often do we talk about offers and nobody actually knows what the hell it is?
How do
I do it? What is it? So here are sort of the elements of an offer, right? So I've got 7 things here. I hope 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I hate it when I don't number stuff, but I meant for it to be 7 because it should always be an odd number, and 7 is a really great odd number. And really, what you want to express here is what it is that you're offering, right? You got to have a name or some description. What the benefit is, what they're going to get out of it, the features, right? This is a place where you finally get to talk about your features. The transformation that it offers. You're going to have to talk about the price and payment terms. You can offer a guarantee at this point and terms and conditions, right? Now, when you're making an offer, there are other things that you might do to make the offer. There are other ways that you may communicate the offer, but this is kind of what an offer is. So as an example, right, if we're talking about that first exchange of information for contact details, it might be, your cybersecurity checklist. And the core benefit is that you get ideas about what to do, about what you can do to get more secure. There. Pardon me. What are the features? Hey, it's a checklist, right? You don't have a lot of features, and your value isn't huge here, right? There's value. You don't have to have a lot of features because guess what? The price is nothing. You're offering some transformation. You're getting clarity, right? Pricing is pretty cheap. It's just your contact information. I'm going to follow up with you, see how it went. You're not really offering a guarantee, because there's really no price. But hey, if you don't get value, just don't talk to us ever again. That's cool, right? Done. Terms and conditions, no obligation, right? So this is kind of like an offer of a checklist in exchange for contact details. And then if we look at your core offer, well, what would your core offer look like? Well, it might be MSP services, right? You probably want a better name than MSP services. You always want your offer to be built for your target, your avatar, your market, right?
100%. Always.
And so the more you can have this name be something that's relevant to them, the better. What's the core benefit? You're going to have to figure this out with your prospects, with your clients. But essentially, you'll be able to grow your business, right? Like that's the thing. The features then are help desk, cybersecurity, network, applications. Well, it's all the stuff that you do. And it's important here to differentiate between the benefit and the features. Like the features is all the stuff. And the benefit is what you get
From doing all this
from,
stuff.
from
Yeah.
doing all that stuff, right? And then the third one is, well, how are you transformed? So maybe you're in control of your business. You have happy clients, something along those lines. And it's really important, at least in my experience, I think you agree, Joe, to have those three things in any offer that you're making.
Yeah.
Then you'll talk about price and payment terms. Maybe it's $15,000 a month, or however you're going to phrase this. You might break it down. You might have more details, but you have a price. Maybe you have a guarantee. There's always some risk reversal that you should put in here. And I realize how tough this is for MSPs, but ultimately, if you really believe in your product and your ability to deliver, then offering a guarantee may be a lot easier than you think, right? Because now you can offer that because you know that you can deliver it. But the more you can offer a guarantee, the more trust you build into the relationship. And then you should always have your terms and conditions, whatever your terms and conditions is, your service levels, your obligations, the payment terms in terms of things like, 30-day net or whatever your payment terms are going to be. Like all of these things kind of have to come into your offer so that they know what they get and at what price. So anyway, this is when you're making an offer, this is the kind of offer that really helps people understand what you're buying. But you want to make sure that you are making the right offer at the right time.
Yes.
Right?
And let's talk about this particular offer for a minute. One of the things that I see often is that the MSPs will miss or not talk about the core benefit. They'll talk about the features, but they won't talk about the core benefit or talk about the transformation.
Yeah.
And if you don't talk about the core benefits and you don't talk about the transformation, all you do is what it is, right? The features and the price. Then what your potential customer is left with is how much this is going to cost. But if you talk about the core benefit and you talk about the transformation, what they're left with is this is a great investment, right? Because it's like, this is what I'm going to get out of it. They don't get what they're going to get out of it. And so you can't confuse the features with the core benefit or the transformation. You have to get the features or the features. But really, at the end of the day, what's interesting to them is what they're going to get out of it. Oh, I'm going to have more patients in my practice. That's good. I want that, and I'll be the kind of doctor that can manage a practice effectively, and I'll have all the tools to see how my staff and everybody's doing. Oh, that's awesome. I want that, right? Yeah. And the features that come with that is, an EHR with tracking and has this HIPAA compliance measure stuff and blah, 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 and all that good stuff. But when you're communicating your offer, please, please, please communicate the benefits and the transformation.
Yeah.
Because when they don't get it. You're just a cost.
Well, and it's all anybody can really buy, right? Like even the features confirm that you can deliver the transformation, but the thing that they're always buying is the transformation. The thing that we all always buy is the transformation. So that's a crucial distinction, and understanding that transformation, what's happening with the business, and being able to communicate what's happening with the business is all a part of how you're going to deliver that offer. And you have to structure the offer with that in mind, right? Like you said, you have to structure the offer with knowing what the benefit is, what the outcome is going to be, what the transformation is going to be, in order to be able to sell that offer, in order to be able to engage your customers. So that's the idea of it.
100%.
So good. I hope this helps explain offers. Anything that pops out at you, Joe, that we need to chat a bit about? I mean, when you did this for your MSP, did you have a way of thinking about these offers?
Well, it kind of came organically. It wasn't like I had to figure it out by getting beat up.
Yeah.
Right? Then you get beat up enough. It's like, oh, I didn't talk about this and I didn't talk about that. When you first start, you don't know what's important to your ideal client because you don't know enough about them in the beginning. It doesn't matter how much research you do, you just don't know enough about them. You still wouldn't know enough about them until you actually start working with them. So the easiest way is to just, you pick a market and then you start working with them. And what happens is all these problems start to crop up. Right. And what you will start to notice if you're working in a particular vertical or industry or with a particular type of client, say I'm working with CFOs, but really when you work in an industry specifically, you start to notice that the problems are all the same.
Yeah.
Like they have the same type of problem. Right. So based on that type of problem, when you solve that problem, that's really where you start to define what the benefits are. Because before you didn't know. Right. But as you start to get in here and you're in the mud with them, you're in the dirt with them, you're figuring out these complex problems that they have. No, it doesn't matter if you have 5,000 people or 5 people. The complexity of the problems are the same. It's just the scale of the problem. How much money are we going to throw at it? The scale of the problem is different, but the complexity of the problem that you're trying to solve is the same complexity. So it's actually easier to onboard a 5,000 user account than it is a 5 user account because there's a lot more preference and customization that you have to do for 5 people.
If you do 5,000
people they don't get to do that. It's like, this is what you get.
That's it.
Right? This is the policy. This is how it works, right? So I think that you have to think about that, right? When you're delivering the services, but as you solve these problems, you start to see what the transformation is, right? So let's say you get 10 clients in that particular vertical, and now you're working with them for 6 months and you see, oh my God, these people were able to get 10 more clients that they couldn't get before. Like this was not their trend. This is not where they were going. And this is what I'm going to tell you as an MSP, you have to get interested in the growth of your client. You have to understand where they were, what the predictable growth was before you came along, and what changed since you have been there. Because the more and more you solve problems for the client, the less noise they're going to have. They're used to having lots of noise and, oh, I have 100 tickets a week and yeah, blah, 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 right? And then you get it down to 5 tickets and they're going to go, well, what have you done for me? And you're going to say, well, I took you from 100 tickets to 5 tickets, and I took your revenue from 1 million to 5 million. And then they're going to go, oh, that's what I pay for? And you go, yeah.
No, I get it.
Yeah, right? But if you're not tracking the success of your client, you cannot explain that.
Yeah.
And it's important for you to understand where they were before you got there. Because your job is to track the transformation so that when you go to a new client, you say, hey, I work with personal injury attorneys, and I make sure that they are able to settle more deals, right? By making sure that all the paperwork, all the things that are supposed to be submitted get submitted on time, by putting in the processes and systems to manage that. And average attorney that works with us sees a 30% increase in settlements. Because now you're putting math to it and you add numbers to something and all of a sudden it's magical, right?
Yeah, true.
Because then you're talking about real benefit, real world benefit that they can get. The more time you spend working with your ideal client, the more data you gather. And that data is critical because that informs your offer. It lets your prospect know that you know your stuff and that you understand what matters to them.
Yeah.
So when you're crafting an offer, you want to craft it that way. You want to be able to make it so that they're listening and going, 30% more? I can close 30% more. Do you know what that means to a practice? Even with just one attorney, 30% more. Holy moly, the amount of money that is, right? You can see double the patients, the amount of money that is for that doctor or for that practice is ridiculous. And so that's why you want to track that way.
Yeah, no, 100%. We have to translate the things that we do into what matters for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing that we can't get hung up on, especially if we're early on as an MSP or early on in picking a vertical, is that I have to be an expert in that. You don't. You have to do what you've been doing for all your other. You're not an expert in all the other ones either. So you just pick one.
People really struggle with that. That's a funny thing that happens around when we tell people that you have to create an offer or you have to be specific around a customer or an avatar or an industry. They say, well, I don't have any expertise in this industry.
Yeah. You don't have any expertise in
but
any.
that means you don't have any expertise in any industry. So no matter where you go, you're going to be in the same situation. So if you say, I'm going to focus on CPAs, and then you go to CPA and you're like, well, but I don't really know that much about CPAs. But if you don't say that you're going to focus on CPAs and you go talk to a CPA, you still are in the same situation. They're still looking at you like, well, what are you going to do for me? And you still can't tell them, which is why it's so much harder than it needs to be to sell, because people are focused not on delivering something of value, but they're trying to be purposefully trying to be generic in such a way that it absolutely turns clients off. And how are you going to buy if you are turned off and confused by the person who's selling to you?
100%.
Create your value journey, and we'd love to see some. So if you have any comments, you can add them here or send them to us, and we'd be happy to take a look at a few of them online and go through your offers. So let us know if you want to take us up on that. And otherwise, Joe, I think we're done here.
They need to remember that you are loved.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have an amazing Thursday afternoon. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us, and a special thanks to our subscribers. Consider becoming one right now and tap into our insights and instincts to help drive your business vision and success. Remember, you didn't start your business to feel frustration. You started it for freedom. We can help you discover the impact, freedom, and wealth you always imagined. Learn more at startgrowmanage.com/learn more.